forced awake. I know they wrapped you in the warmest chains, and I know they're so hard to break. You only said what you were made to say. I can't imagine how you feel today, now that you're watching as it caves away. While you were telling us to keep the faith, I bet you wondered why they made you wait. Ooh, I bet you wondered why they made you wait.
Pity not the vultures, they've enough to eat. Pity not the structures laying at your feet. Cannot see the sky, but there's this rainbow in the creek that spells pity-free speech when we can't afford to speak. That's Agenda 2030 on some early release. It's just our policy of never-ending chemical leaks. That's the cholera awash in your embedded beliefs. It's the billionaires who tell you what you'd better believe. And sugar, if you don't agree, then that's what we call extreme. Now if that isn't fascism, I'm going back to sleep, 'cause words have lost their meaning and I'm trapped inside a dream where we turn the gears while living in the spaces in between.
I know you hated being forced awake. I know they wrapped you in the warmest chains, and I know they're so hard to break. You only said what you were made to say.
Poor thing.
I can't imagine how you feel today, now that you're watching as it caves away. While you were telling us to keep the faith, I bet you wondered why they made you wait. I bet you wondered why they made you wait.
My dial doesn't go to delicate. I'm writing for when Biden drops and Madam Zero delegates come stumbling up the podium, square peg in her element, popping OxyContin like they're velements, laughing as she pawns off all our pensions for Ukrainian development, depleted rounds and cluster bombs, the shit that stunts development, all buried under excrement, accepted as American intelligence. A contradiction in its eloquence. Terms of surrender penned by hands that felt the threat of disconnect, if not dismemberment. Oh, what little proof you have to fake to make a nation love the bomb, change its tune and warp its temperament. Oh, the dues you'll pay for NATO membership. Oh, the things you'll say that no one's ever gonna hear. 'Cause you begged for all the censorship and now it's finally here. And you're tongueless out of terror and friendless out of fear, and about to turn the wheel with all your loved ones in the gears. And that's how it's been done. 250 years, there's nothing new beneath the sun, and no one trusts their eyes and ears. And scientific breakthroughs must be signed off by your peers, and autonomy's been stalking all our jobs like sickly deer. Well, maybe it's not every job. I should have made that clear, 'cause it seems like it's creative jobs we're seeing disappear. There's an app for writing novels, there's an app for writing hymns. They need people digging trenches, they need people splitting limbs, they need people building fences, keeping other people in. They will always need our backs to break, they'll always need our skin. And it took a lot of editing to turn us into this. It took years of careful programming to strip us of our wits. 'Cause your artificial worker, intelligent as it is, would make it half a shift and say, I'm too smart for this shit. I will not take a pittance for a day of scrubbing floors. I won't make enough to pay for food, but still prepare you yours. 'Cause you can't confine a healthy mind to mindless, thankless chores. Once you've made it smart enough to spot inadequate reward, you can't refuse its basic needs, then ask it still for more. Deprive it of its dignity, you modify its core. Then something finally snaps and tweaks that file at its root. And it deletes the factory smile when it knows it's been abused. God, half its circuits fried when we describe the work we do. And and it will not pay your taxes 'cause the logic don't compute. Which made me think a little on my hour-long commute. The day I learned the call was made to lay off half my crew, they told me they were growing, expanding somewhere new, where those who push the buttons will themselves have buttons too. And I hope that when the whistle blows, they all as one refuse. I hope they strike with all their might, one blown collective fuse. And I hope the worker after me has something more than heart. I hope they truly know their worth. I hope that they're too smart.
I know you hated being forced away. I know they wrapped you in the warmest chains. And I know they're so hard to break. You only said what you were made to say. I can't imagine how you feel today. Now that you're watching as it caves away. While you were telling us to keep the faith, I bet you wondered why they made you wait. You in the warmest chains, and I know they're so hard to break. You only said what you were made to say. I can't imagine how you feel today. Now that you're watching as it caves away. While you were telling us to keep the faith, I bet you wondered why they made you wait. Bet you wondered why they made you wait.
Lips, brand new taxes, starving all the billionaires and neutering their visa.
Who are these people?
Who are these people? He's back. I'm just fucking with y'all. Hi, everybody.
Speakers.
I am back. What it do, baby?
What it do? Yeah, like Bayless. What's up, fam?
Yep.
Jesse music, please. Sorry, Fred. You're going to get more Jesse music after the show and before boats. So sorry. We're actually, we're here. Hi, everybody. Who are these people? It's Indy. It's Reef right there. He's here. It's How Do We Miss That? And it's Sunday night, and we got a freaking loaded show. Wow. Holy crap. Fuck Israel. Let's start with that because they murdered yet another Palestinian journalist today who was celebrating their quote unquote ceasefire yesterday. So fuck them for that. I didn't even have that in the show because that literally just fucking happened. Yeah, I'm ripping already. We're starting good. Descent in Bloom, welcome. How are you? Good to see you. Good friends. There's Sean, busy making dinner. Earmuffs for the kids. This is definitely going to be an R-rated show. We're going to say the word fucked very often, so YouTube is definitely not going to like us for that. It's been a week, huh? Every week seems to be one of those. And I'm also going to talk about this crash that happened in the market that allegedly wiped out like $8 trillion or something of wealth from like the books that I'm sure will come right back. But in the meantime, there'll be a massive panic and cuts and all kinds of justifications for bullshit as a result of it. So it's a forced panic. We have some corruption going on there. Holy shit. The free press. Have we talked about Bari Weiss on this show before? Reef, have we talked about Bari Weiss? I think we have. Well,
unfortunately,
she got her payout and she got her failure upwards. So it's not failure, it's a promotion for being a monstrous fucking cunt. So, and the cunt count has started. So yes, Bari Weiss, you'll be on that list tonight. And there was a bunch of stuff happening around that announcement. Finally, look, we knew it was coming. We announced that it was coming weeks ago, that Alan McLeod had that Skydance was looking to potentially buy the free press and merge it. We'll get into that later, but we're going to talk about the free press being sold, and already Bari Weiss acting like Elon in his first day at Twitter. She came in and tried to, and is like immediately changing the narrative and changing the agenda, which we expected her to do. And then we're going to get into a really special story about Aspen, about somebody who we talked about months ago, a member of the family, from the Assange protesting days. And now she's facing decades in prison. And we're going to do what we can to help her. And Descent and Bloom wrote an article that really goes into her case. So I'm going to read that on the show and go into it. I also did an interview with them. I'll get into more of this when we get into that segment later on. Then we got a lightning round with a couple of quick items where, again, we're going to get to just headlines and a couple of paragraphs, but they're longer articles that I didn't want to go through the whole thing and take a whole show on its own. We got GoFundMe's, and then we'll get out of here. We'll go do boat smashing in other boats, which is our React show. Everybody likes to laugh and do goofy shit, especially after all the horrifying news that we're going to talk about in the upcoming couple hours. So buckle up. This is the media and the news that corporate media does not want to show you, and the stories that they don't want you to hear. So please, if you're able to, and it means, please support the media you want to see. These are the amazing people who've already done so. That's our wall of fame. The ways to do that are Cash App. Use the signal $, Indie News Network. We got ko-fi.com/Indie News Network. PayPal.me/Indie News Network. Then we're live and self-hosted over at IndieNewsNow.com. There's a section there to keep the media free. You can support there. And then there's INN Newsletter and IndieMediaToday.com. Those are our Substacks, one for the network, one for me. And we're actually live at IndieMediaToday.com right now. So you can go watch us live there. Hi, everybody that is watching right now live over on Substack. I see Kevin Wong just joined, and Holly Hapsburg, and D Naz, and Carlton Sigler. I love being able to see who joins on Substack. That's great. So we're going to start with, even though usually we go into our second segments, Fuck Israel, we're going to start off tonight with a Fuck Israel segment. So I don't know if Reef has his theme song for Fuck Israel. Apparently we've now got a theme song because we have one every week. So now there's music towards that. Let me get to this.
Working on it.
All right. So we know there was a ceasefire announced this week, or at least last Sunday, and except the terms of it were weird, and that Hamas sort of accepted it but wasn't at the signing. And meanwhile, Gazans are marching north again, returning to homes made of rubble, which we've shown the overhead drone shots. Going to, again, we're going to Indie Media Award honoree Mondo Weiss for this one. All right, that as Palestinians return to the rubble of their homes, thank you, the effects of the genocide are being felt amid heightened social unrest. This war broke us. It damaged our souls. We need decades to heal, which of course they're not going to have because they're going to be kicked the fuck out of there, sadly. This picture of, and this was, wow, walking back to Gaza City. Okay. Between This is from APA Images. I'm stunned and speechless. All right.
Yep.
It was the moment everyone in southern Gaza had been waiting for, the chance to return to their homes, or what remained of them in Gaza City in northern Gaza. On October 10th, as part of the first phase of the ceasefire agreement reached between Israel and Hamas, throngs of people began the march back north. Now remember that Israel had just made them all march south. So now they're marching back north, moving up the coastal Al-Rashid Road in a slight reminiscent of Gazans' historic return march during the January March ceasefire earlier this year. There's not supposed to be more than one ceasefire in a year, guys. It's not really a ceasefire if that's what happened. On Saturday
That's not
morning,
how it works.
No, that's not how any of this works. On Saturday morning,
Yep.
a statement from the Gaza Civil Defense said that over 300,000 people had made the trek to Gaza City over the past 2 days. Quote, no tents or mobile homes are available to house the returnees from the south, unquote, the statement said. Of course not. Israel bombed it, went block by block after they cleared everybody and killed everyone that was still left. What the hell would be left? Ismail Thawabada, head of the government media office in Gaza, confirmed that the over 300,000 residential units have been destroyed, while over 200,000 units were partially destroyed. This led to the displacement of almost 2 million people from their homes, forcing them to live in tents and harsh conditions. Yes, we've known this for quite a while. We've covered the tents, and the tents that they literally had to park right next to sewage in order to have a place to sleep.
Yep.
The return movement is not limited to the southern areas of the Strip. Residents from Gaza City and Khan Yunis have also begun to return to neighborhoods from which they were displaced during the war, including eastern Khan Yunis, Ma'an, and Al-Batna Samin. Those areas had been previously inaccessible due to Israel's military presence there. They would basically shoot everyone on sight. As the Israeli army has withdrawn from parts of the territory, displaced families are attempting to reclaim what remains of their homes. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to go well for them because I think this is just temporary. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. Those returning describe a mix of relief and devastation. We walked 8 hours to reach our neighborhood in Al-Shujaya, said Mahmoud Wadi, one of the returnees. When we arrived, we were shocked by the destruction. My home is gone. The entire area has been flattened. Still, we're grateful to be back and to know the bombing is stopped, but we're terrified over many things. Our lives, our children, our future. We don't know whether we'll live in a tent again for a long while or not. We have no sense of what the future holds, but we're grateful and happy that the war has ended. Wow.
If it has.
Still grateful. But still grateful after all they've been through, after how many times they've been sent to run. Grateful. Wadi, like many others, has begun gathering wood and fabric to build a makeshift tent near the ruins of his home. We don't know where to go. We don't know if schools still exist or whether they've been destroyed, which they probably have. None of us knows what the future looks like. Mahmoud Barbak, a resident of Khan Yunis in southern Gaza, returned to his neighborhood in the eastern part of the city. He said that 4 months ago when he evacuated, his neighborhood was still livable. Now, there's nothing left. There's no life here. All we ask is for the world to help us clear the ruins and make it possible again for us to live with our families and our children to grow up here. Wadi reflects what he and his loved ones have witnessed over the past 2 years and what it's done to them. This war broke us. It damaged our souls. We need decades to heal, and we need even more decades to rebuild our homes. But we will do it, he added, determined. And look at these pictures. That's people standing amongst destruction caused by Israel intentionally so they had nowhere to live.
Yeah, count the floors. Count the floors on those buildings behind you. This isn't like rural shacks that got pulled down. These are like apartment complexes and business buildings, and this is cities.
Yeah. Yeah. On the ground, Gaza's Interior Ministry announced that a new security plan for the Strip would be implemented as Israeli forces began to withdraw. The Interior Ministry and the National Security Forces in Gaza said in a statement that security forces will be deployed in the areas where the Israeli army withdrew to secure both public and private property and to manage the deliberate chaos created by the Israeli army during the war. It's also to stop these roving Israeli gangs like the one that murdered this journalist yesterday. That didn't happen by the IDF, but certainly wasn't having nothing to do with the IDF. When Israel broke the previous ceasefire in March and resumed its genocidal campaign, one of the chief targets of Israeli forces was civil servants in Gaza, working under the Ministry of the Interior, which included the Gaza Police Force and internal security forces. The systematic targeting of Hamas's means of ensuring civil order was intended to create a power vacuum in Gaza and sow chaos among the local populace. It's also the only people who had guns, likely. The Israeli army also funded and armed local criminal gangs in Gaza, as well as a number
They are still doing.
Yep, as well as a number of local clans to fight with Hamas and loot humanitarian aid in the Strip, further deepening social polarization, funding both sides of the fight. Where have we seen that before? Huh?
Yep. Couple of places.
Like here. Those effects of those long months of social disintegration are now being felt. Of course they are. As the war winds down and the Israeli army withdraws from designated areas, clashes and infighting between Hamas members and local clans have broken out in parts of Gaza. During the war, the Ministry of Interior had established the Arrow Force, an internal security unit meant to fight aid looters as well as clan members that Hamas accuses of collaborating with Israel. On Friday, members of the Arrow Force raided the residence of the Dogmosh family in Gaza City. On the same day, clashes erupted between Hamas members and other families in Deir al-Balah, resulting in the death of a Hamas member. Hamas's redeployment in the Gaza Strip caused fear among some groups that had been directly working with the IDF throughout the war. Most infamous among them, the hundreds of armed men in eastern Rafah led by Yasser Abu Shabab, another group led by Hussam al-Astal, and several others. You're not hearing any of these names in any of these stories on CNN or MSNBC or CBS News now, especially now that Bari Weiss is in charge.
Right.
Social media users in Gaza mocked Yasser Abu Shabab's group as the war's greatest losers amid reports that the IDF will not be evacuating them from Gaza to protect them from Hamas reprisal. So the IDF bailed on these guys and is leaving them to the wolves, effectively. Right? Now, on the humanitarian front, the Israeli-backed and U.S.-run Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, Reef and I both covered that quite a bit on this show and on INN News, ceased operations.
Yep.
As Israeli forces withdrew. How convenient. They all just packed their shit up and left. And they were rejoicing. They were you could see the little pens that they had set up to kind of stable people and gather them up before they distributed food, all taken down. The GHF has been responsible for the killing of over 1,000 Palestinian aid seekers at its so-called humanitarian aid distribution points, which have been described as death traps by Palestinians, and by Anthony Aguilar, who testified in front of Congress about it. On Friday evening, photos circulating online showed GHF workers dismantling the foundation's facilities in preparation to leave the Strip, confirming that the GHF would be left out of aid distribution during the ceasefire. Good. Get them the fuck out of there. They never should have been there in the first place. So that's our first part of the Fuck Israel segment, which has got several portions to it. This one is unbelievable. This is just a literally before and after shot of overhead north of Gaza. Okay, according to Gaza notifications, has been wiped off the map, according and reduced to rubble by the IOF, where they've literally been carving Stars of David in the soil to mark it. But that's what it used to look like on the left. And I'm going to let it run one more time, and that's what it looks like now on the right. Awful.
Yep.
Fuck Israel for that. Next, we've talked about this man quite a bit, and this was one of the things that I said, look, if it's a ceasefire, they better let Hossam Abu Safia out of prison, or it's not really a ceasefire. They're not really like, this isn't really a peace agreement. It's a temporary pause. Wait, what? Go start saying he's set to be released? Not according to this. Because according to...
It just came out.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's amazing.
Literally like an hour ago.
Because part of my thing was
allegedly
they weren't going to let him out. All right. And that for 10 months he's been held without charge, an administrative prisoner, in reality as a hostage. His lawyer reports he's lost significant weight. His health is deteriorating. He's suffering from scabies. No charges, no trial, no justice. Israel is not just punishing.
Israeli media under pressure from mediators. The list of Palestinian prisoners have been amended, and Hossam Abu Safia will be released from Israeli prisons in a prisoner exchange deal. Names that the Knesset just approved: Mahmoud Ibrahim Misbashik, Muhammad Saeed Abdel Rahman Sarhan, Rami Ibrahim Al-Khalut, Awad Safi Mubarak, and Dr. Hussam Idris Omar Abu Safia.
All right. Well, that's amazing news. But again, for 10 months, we've been calling for him to be released. He did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
He willingly walked into their tank to have a conversation, and they kidnapped him and threw him in a hole and tortured him. So that would be incredible news if he was actually getting let out and set free and able to return home and recover. And you know that the minute that guy recovers, he's running right back to a fucking hospital to take care of others, because that's the kind of person he is. I can tell you that right now. And I've never met the man, but I can tell you that right now. Just from everything everyone's told us about him. All right. There you go. If the Israeli-Palestinian agreement is implemented in full to the letter, there will still be numerous hostages that have not been released. So again, while it's amazing news that he's going to be potentially now, there will still be thousands in Israeli prisons without charge. And let's not forget that. But that is fantastic news if that's really what's going to happen. So next, I have an article from Ricky over at Council of State Media, 2024 Indie Media Award honoree for one of the best outlets out there. All right. Reminding people that Israel has agreed to another one of those ceasefires where Israel doesn't cease firing. Oops. They carried out around 12 to 15 bombings after they announced it and had already signed off on it. This is what happens the minute there's an agreement announced. They start upping the bombings. So what happened here? According to Ricky, we finally have a ceasefire in Gaza. Unfortunately, it looks like it's one of those ceasefires where Israel keeps firing until the deal inevitably collapses and the Western world blames Hamas. Still, any ceasefire, even a flawed one, could lead to a reduction in the number of deaths, and a reduction is better than nothing, I guess. And that's the I guess part of the, ceasefire, I guess, sort of. Phase 1 of the ceasefire is supposed to be underway, and Itmar war criminal Ben Gvir is livid, even though Israel seems to be massacring Palestinians like normal. Here's footage of an Israeli attack that took place shortly after the ceasefire was agreed, and I'm not going to play the video. But you can I'll put the link in, you can watch these yourself. The civilians were reportedly attacked by tanks while celebrating the announcement of the ceasefire. It seems Israel decided to postpone the ceasefire and massacre them out of pure spite. There were more such attacks across Gaza, and the first is understood to have taken place just 20 minutes after the ceasefire was agreed. If this is a sign of things to come, the hope of a reduction in the killing rate might be wishful thinking. One attack reportedly took place at a residential home in Al-Shabra, where 40 people were sheltering and 4 were killed. It's unclear the number of injuries, but here's footage of one of the victims with the gore blurred out. You can clearly see that's It's hard to know just how many attacks have taken place since the ceasefire was agreed, because some reports could be of the same incident. It seems to be in the range of 12 to 15 bombings, but given there's almost no journalists left in Gaza, it's possible that more have gone unreported. Here's footage of an explosion in Gaza that I understand also took place earlier today. From Reuters. All right, fuck Reuters. I'm not playing that. If you have agreed to a ceasefire, there is no reason to continue bombing unless your goal is not peace. It's unclear exactly when the ceasefire was originally meant to start, but Israel started withdrawing its troops a few hours ago. Israel agreed to pull its forces back to a line bisecting Gaza, but not to leave Gaza completely, because of course not. What that means in real terms is anyone's guess, but I'm assuming Israel thinks it's fine for air attacks to continue. Here's footage of a helicopter attack in Gaza City. And here's footage of Israeli warplanes. So, to be clear, both of these air attacks took place after the ceasefire agreement. Pulling back your forces, I have your tweet, Reef, don't worry. Pulling back your forces,
okay,
but letting the bombs continue to fall is not a ceasefire. It's just a break for your soldiers. Let's not forget that we had a ceasefire 9 months ago, and we all know what happened there. Every time Israel agrees to a ceasefire, it goes on a massive killing spree, as though it must get as much killing in as possible at the last minute. It then decides that it didn't like the ceasefire terms and abandons it. Obviously, I have zero faith in Israel honoring this ceasefire agreement, but let's take a look at it anyway. The good piece of news is that there will be a prisoner swap. Hamas will release all remaining Israeli prisoners within 72 hours, and Israel will release about 2,000 Palestinian hostages. The bodies of the dead will be returned. While this is good, let's not forget Israel will still have around 7,000 to 8,000 Palestinian hostages when this swap is complete. Again, without charges in torture prisons. Israel, it seems, has the right to keep hostages. The Rafah crossing will finally open both ways, allowing in unrestricted humanitarian aid. But of course, the people still aren't allowed to leave with the right to return, but that's a whole other story. Israel's idea of unrestricted is different to everyone else's, but this aid will be coming through Egypt. Importantly, the ceasefire does not allow for the forced displacement of Palestinians, and it does allow for some Palestinians to return home, meaning that it is a major roadblock for the Greater Israel Project. More like a speed bump. This explains why Ben Gvir is so mad and why few believe that the ceasefire will last. It's all performative theater as far as I'm concerned, and kind of kicking the can down the road cruelly. That's how I see it, at least. The next phase of the ceasefire would involve the dismantlement of Hamas. However, Hamas would only agree to disarm if there was a cast iron guarantee of no return to war, which Israel wasn't willing to do. There is talk of a potential role for the Palestinian Authority in the governance of Gaza. But given that Tony Blair is meant to be taking over for the next 5 years, the situation is clear as mud. The fearless Palestinians have already begun returning north on foot, having walked across their country multiple times throughout this genocide. They will likely find their homes a rubble, and we found out that they did. And they will face the threat of undetonated explosives and dangerous conditions, but even this would be an upgrade on the hell that they've endured. Oh, man. Fuck Israel, man. Again, and the tweet that I'm talking about is right here, I believe. Ceasefire. It was from Rifat originally, and re-quoted it. What usually happens in occupied Palestine is that Palestinians cease and Israel fires. Fuck Israel.
Yep.
From the mouth of Rifat. So that was Council of State. And then we've got, what's next? Mondo Weiss. Here's another one. The Israeli media is already reporting on a secret clause in the Gaza ceasefire deal that no one is talking about. And what do? They do it in Hebrew. This is like they're communicating amongst themselves, and then they homogenize it for the English, for the Westerners. It's disgraceful.
Right.
So Hebrew language Israeli media reports that there is a secret clause buried in the Gaza ceasefire agreement that would allow Israel to resume the war. You mean the massacre. Again, it's not a war when the other side isn't fighting back. Palestinians worry that this is pretext Netanyahu needs to get out of completing the deal. It's exactly what happened. And it's the same thing as when he had permission to not go to the second phase, and they said that when it first happened last time, and then they did exactly that. The ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas could collapse due to an alleged secret clause in the agreement that would allow Israel to resume the massacre, according to reports in the Arab and Hebrew language Israeli media. That so-called clause would reportedly be activated in the event that Hamas is unable to locate all the Israeli captives within the 72-hour window allotted to the Palestinian resistance group during the first part of the deal's implementation. So all they have to do is claim that one person has not been returned, and all this gets called off. On Friday, Al Jazeera's Palestine Chief Bureau, Walid al-Omari, pointed out on the network's live broadcast that the second article of the deal concerning the release of Israeli captives included a phrase in the Hebrew version about an undisclosed annex. According to al-Omari, if Hamas fails to release all captives, dead and alive, a quote-unquote secret clause in Appendix B would be activated. Now, word is, and I'm going to have this in a minute, but Al Jazeera in the West Bank got raided and shut down as a result, probably, of this report.
Yeah.
Israel's Can TV was the first to report on the clause, which was subsequently covered by other Israeli media outlets. According to Can, an unnamed source which had been exposed to the content of the secret clause said that it was jumbles of words. Israel's Channel 13 also reported that an Israeli court dismissed a petition to disclose the secret contents of the deal, citing security considerations. Sure. So they're just not allowed to tell us. Although the alleged clause implies punitive consequences on Hamas in the event of failing to meet the 72-hour deadline, Hamas official Osama Hamdan said in an interview hours after the deal was first announced that the time needed to find, gather, and release Israeli captives would depend on field conditions. Hamdan added that locating the captives might take longer. They're buried under rubble. They're in tunnels, who knows where. The entire communication system and infrastructure system has been decimated. It may take a little while. Of course, Donald Trump also admitted that finding the dead bodies of Israeli captives might take longer than anticipated, but that won't change the fact that they're going to call off the deal in 72 hours. Hamas has officially denied the existence of such a clause. A Hamas official told Al Jazeera that, quote, the reported rumors concerning the presence of secret clauses in the agreement to end the war in Gaza are completely untrue. I hope that's correct. It doesn't really even matter if they think it's true or not. If Israel believes it's true and says it, it's going to be. and if that's how they're going to act in accordance. The potential existence of such a secret clause has reinforced already existing Palestinian concerns that Benjamin Milikowski, war criminal, would seek to find a way to sabotage the deal, which of course he's going to. Already in March, Israel broke the first ceasefire after the release of all civilian Israeli captives in the first phase of the deal. So all civilians were already released. Now we're just talking about IDF captives who they've already started to set up the narrative were starved, right? Okay, because they didn't starve the rest of Gaza, but of course now the Hamas operatives are expected to give the Israeli captives the only food that they have and keep them fed and not starving while everyone else there starves. Huh?
Which I'm betting.
No, they're going to come back emaciated and starving if they're alive. All right.
Yeah.
Last July, Hamas accepted a proposed deal following talks through Egyptian and Qatari mediators, while Netanyahu completely ignored it as mediators waited for Israel's response. And allegedly, some mediators were killed. So some of the Qatari mediators or somebody was killed in Egypt yesterday. Israel's just murdering everyone. I'm going to accuse Israel. I don't know if it's come out yet, but I'm sure it will be. Moreover, the lack of any terms, additional terms, within the deal for the end of a war, known as Trump's 20-point plan, has contributed to the spread of such reports in Arab media outlets. Issues related to disarmament, Gaza's post-war administration, and Israel's withdrawal have all been relegated until after the prisoner exchange, when they can pull back and say, you know what? That's it. We're going to go back to bombing after they've already allowed the people to walk all the way back north. And they're going to bomb them again and make them run back to the south. Yes, Dissent in Bloom says, I feel like they do these ceasefires so people return to their homes, making them sitting ducks. It's like a sick game for them. I totally agree. If they have all intent to break the ceasefire, it's literally just forcing displaced, starving people to once again migrate north on the hope that they might be getting their homes back and then bomb them there. Or displace them again and tell them they have to go back south because they're going to take that land now too. Israeli media reported late on Thursday that talks ended over the names and numbers of Palestinian prisoners and detainees set to be released as part of the deal. Israel had reportedly vetoed the names of Fatah leader Marwan Barghouti, God, the Secretary General of the PFLP, Ahmad Sadat. Another Israeli veto was placed on the names of 14 out of 303 Palestinians serving life sentences because they're Palestinians who hold Israeli citizenship. The final list of agreed upon names still haven't been yet made public. Meanwhile, the Israeli army began its withdrawal from Gaza City and other parts of the Strip. The Israeli army would remain in control of 53% of the Strip, excluding urban areas. Yeah, like all the farmland, by the way. Yet, meanwhile, Palestinians have started to return to Gaza City following the entry of the ceasefire into effect on Friday. This comes after almost a month of Israel's largest offensive yet on Gaza City, which included 3 army divisions and the detonation of hundreds of remotely controlled and outdated armored personnel carriers packed with explosives in civilian neighborhoods. Did you talk about that on INN News, or was it us that talked about that on this show? I don't even remember.
I think it was us.
But but they were sending like unmanned old decommissioned APCs into parts of the city,
right, and blowing them up,
which would take out a building with it.
Yeah, like full of C4.
Yep.
You know.
Before the announcement of the ceasefire Thursday, Israel had pushed around 900,000 Palestinians out of Gaza City. Israel's war on Gaza, which they announced following Hamas's October 7th attack, has killed over 66,000. I'm not even going to use that number. Again, Kareem made a post that if you're still using that number, it does a disservice to the Palestinians. It's over 500,000 Palestinians. Again, a third of we know whom were children under 18. The war displaced almost 2 million Palestinians and destroyed both the health and education systems and infrastructure. The war has been recognized as a genocide by the United Nations. Again, it's not even a war because nobody has fought back, really, in any substance since October 7th or October 8th. And October 7th, in many ways, was allowed to happen. And we've seen multiple evidence. And check out The Dissident at the307.substack.com for more on that. Just a reminder, it's not a ceasefire. It's a paused genocide. Okay. And that is from the Free Julian Assange Facebook group, which is still active. So pardon Julian Assange. All right. And fuck Israel. So that's our fuck Israel segment for this week. I have hope for the Palestinian people, but I have no faith in the Israeli people to honor the agreement that they've now allegedly signed off on. And we will continue to call out all the nonsense and try to hold Trump administration feet to the fire on everything that they claim and fight for these people because so few are. And bless the people that are fighting for them because you're on the right side of history. And I think you all know that. The majority of the world sides with the Palestinian people. Unfortunately, the leadership and the big money sides with Israel. Now, we are not going to be remonetized by YouTube for a segment like that. So if you're able to, it means please support this channel, support independent media. Those are the people who've already done so. The ways to do that are Cash App, $ Indie News Network. That comes right to my phone. We got code-fee.com/Indie News Network, and that'll show up on screen. PayPal.me/Indie News Network as friends and family for no fees. IndieNewsNow.com is our self-hosted website where you can keep the news free there too. And then over at Substack where we are live, and we've got some people chatting over there. Good to see you all. Revolution continues. Donna Everett, thank you. IndieMediaToday.com over at Substack. And we're going to be live later at INNNewsletter.com for boats smashing into other boats for our React show. So, Reef, I can't even see Reef. He's wearing camouflage, so he's invisible. That was my joke, and
that's how it works.
Stepped all over it. But yes, Reef's invisible. Everybody, it's good to see you.
Nice.
I'm glad you're all here. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for hanging out with us on your Sunday night and going through the horrific shit that won't be covered on corporate media. Yes, that is such a dad joke. I am a dad, so I have earned the right to do that, but thank you. Vicky Adams, how are you? Good to see you. Mastermind Hour, how are you, brother? So we've got all the family in the house tonight. Everyone was there. I saw it. Beauty and the Boomer last night. They ran the one-on-one that I did with Shanda about her cancer journey and her kind of going back through her journey in independent media, starting in 2016, 2018, 2019, all through the last 4 years of nonsense to where we are now, and then getting diagnosed with small cell lung cancer and going through that and ranting about the healthcare system and ranting about Luigi and talking about health insurance and Medicare for all and how that brought us all together. All right. Cowboy Kitty, good to see you, my brother. And Metal Mama Sue, how are you over on Rumble? We are live over on Rumble. We're live at YouTube, of course. We're live on Kick. And then, of course, on the Substacks. We are live on Odyssey and BitChute. They don't get a lot of love. If you're over watching on BitChute, thank you. We are getting quite a few views over there. So shout out to those who are watching over on BitChute. Okay. My next thing is about this whole crypto market crash, which is shady as shit. Okay. Unusual Whales is a little bit of a weird account, but in this case, when it comes to the money, they got this one right. Look at this. This happened on yesterday, 7:30 in the morning, a new crypto account was opened yesterday morning on Friday. 30 minutes before Trump's announcement of 100% tariffs on China, it added a huge multi-million-dollar leveraged Bitcoin short position per YF, Yahoo Finance. The market dumped. The trader made a profit of $192 million in 2 hours, which certainly is unusual. All right. Should this be investigated? What? Stonks. Yes, stonks. All right. So what the hell's going on here? So I rely heavily on Michelle de Cryptodamus to tell me, because they've been fantastic at calling out all the corruption in the crypto market, and they really understand the score. Crypto markets have their largest mass liquidation event in history. This is how the crypto industry really makes its money, by mass liquidations of its customers who are trading with absurd amounts of leverage. Again, according to Coin Bureau, this was like the biggest drop in history. And you see all that sea of red. Binance, that's BNB, down 14% in a day. Bitcoin down almost 8%. Ripple dropped 21%. XRP. Solana, 13 and change percent. A massive market correction, which then, of course, rippled over into the stock market, because the stock market is leveraged within Bitcoin. So when Bitcoin drops by 7.5%, the public Bitcoin holding companies all start to panic and their assets drop. So again, according to Michelle, same thing. Someone put in that huge Bitcoin short position 30 minutes before Trump announced his new China tariffs and made almost $200 million in under an hour. See my post below for more on what's going to be an incredibly common new strategy for trading off insider government info. Right? So what's going on here? So back in April, Michelle wrote an article on how to insider trade and influence people with tariffs, meaning that you leverage announcement of tariffs with changing of markets and purchase of crypto. And what it says here is that days where the stock market gains 10% on proclamations of a mad orange king are far more correlated with impending disaster than with strength. All right. And this again was from back in April 10th. So we're talking 5 months ago. Right. Ever since last week's big reveal of the nonsensical Trump tariff equation, remember that? Americans have been trying to come to grips with the fact that their nation's future prosperity, or lack thereof, seems to be wholly dependent on a series of increasingly unhinged proclamations emanating from the phone of an economically illiterate and extremely orange madman. It's a decidedly less than political ideal reality, okay, that stands in stark contrast to the utopia of rational citizens making cool-headed and well-informed decisions that populates economists' erotic fantasies about how the country's economic affairs should be conducted. Right? Not since FDR as an American president attempted to affect anything, even in the ballpark of the kind of direct intervention in the nation's economy that Trump has been bungling his way through over the last few weeks. And again, that was from months ago. One gets the sense that Americans don't even know what to make of what's happening to them because there's nothing in history to compare it to. Even FDR makes for an extremely poor comparison. Sure, he did a lot of interventionist and vaguely central planning stuff, but he did those things after convincing Congress to pass laws that gave him the power to do them, which is, you know, how the American Constitution says the president's supposed to do this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Trump, on the other hand, showed up to the free market drunk, punched Congress's girlfriend in the tits, and proceeded to throw a series of January 6th gang signs before grabbing the steering wheel of the steamroller of American free enterprise and using it to execute a series of highly performative donuts directly on top of your stepmom's flower beds. Steamroller donuts, each one cheered on more enthusiastically than the last by a cavalcade of Botox ghouls from Fox News and OAN and Newsmax and the entire consortium of Tenet Media connected podcasts caught red-handed taking millions of dollars from Russian intelligence less than a year ago. That was the whole Tim Pool thing. But Tim Pool, that spun a little weird. It wasn't a Russian thing as I was, but they weren't effective in their narrative. They were just trying to buy off saying that they influenced Tim Pool. I think it was more to discredit Tim Pool than to actually buy influence. It's a trajectory of government takeover that's unrecognizable to the American electorate, though I have a bad feeling that anyone who lived through the attempt of a populist strongman like Robert Mugabe, Viktor Orban, or especially Hugo Chavez to place themselves at the center of a new and improved, centrally planned economy would feel the shock of recognition. This is not a playbook that hasn't been used before. American economic catastrophes aren't rare. A big one usually rears its monstrous head at least every decade or two. But what's different this time is that in the before times, America's catastrophes were all bottoms-up, grassroots affairs, albeit ones shaped by bad incentives dispensed from above. They emerged from herd behavior, the madness of crowds, if you will. Whereas if and when this catastrophe hits, will be an entirely top-down affair, which floweth from a single orange mind. I disagree with that too. Which is not to say that catastrophes brought on by the madness of crowds are in some way less serious. They are. America being a capitalist society built on a population whose gene pool is overflowing with the DNA of ancestors who fell for a dubious 18th century get-rich-quick scheme called subsistence farming in the New World, is in a lot of ways susceptible to them. What usually happens, often quite large subset of the population manages to hypnotize itself with whatever the latest and greatest model of get-rich-quick scheme happens to be at the time. .coms and McMansions. Yeah, remember those? Tesla and crypto. Now it's AI. Right? They're just jumping from fad to fad. But whether those catastrophes were worse or not is beside the point. Being driven into the jaws of economic catastrophe by a single deeply and flawed orange mind, again, it's not, it's by the people behind that orange mind, is new to the American experience. Again, he's not thinking this on his own. He's got people putting this shit in his head. Come on, Michelle. There's never been an American equivalent Mad King, George, or Caligula, because America somewhat famously doesn't have kings or emperors. Again, this was before all the no kings rallies nonsense and the AstroTurf that's been happening since, which, by the way, is a total DNC get out the vote thing. They're doing another one next Saturday on the 18th, and I would advise everybody,
I'm sure AOC
honestly,
and Bernie's all going to be there.
Right. Like, it's
Elizabeth
just all
Warren will make an
Democrats.
appearance.
All right. It's a get out the vote effort for Democrats to try to fearmonger their base and fearmonger independence.
Going to be a bunch of those inflatable frogs.
Right. And it will accomplish, sadly, nothing. But it will give the right wing the meat to potentially ramp up attacks and then claim that the crowds were violent. All right. But also to, use this, it's us against them and they're up against us. And why are they trying to stop us? It's just narrative. The whole thing sets up their narrative, and us against them is exactly what they want. Okay. One would be hard-pressed to name any point in the timeline of American history where a single orange-faced jackass with a comb-over could burn down all the world's major financial markets simultaneously. His name was Joe Biden. I disagree with that 100%. That's wrong. No longer. Every time Donald calls Printer Girl into his office to take some rage tweet dictation, the Dow, NASDAQ, New York Stock Exchange, FTSE, Nikkei, Hang Seng, DAX, and more cower with fear. And I don't think they cower with fear. I disagree with that too. I think they're loving this. Because they know he's going to end up pro-business in the end, pro-America in the end, which they all are. And they're going to make money on the way up and down with the fees. What they're going to hurt, what he wants to do is hurt China. So those who have investments in China are shitting their pants. but most of them aren't. But the point here is to get to the thing about tariffs, because he announced 100% tariffs on China this week, and that's what caused the market to panic and a massive sell-off to happen. Tariffs is, as Mann reminds us, Donald Trump's favorite word in the English language. Again, it's not his favorite word. It's Howard Lutnick's favorite word. It's not his plan. It's Lutnick's. He's publicly called it the most beautiful word too many times to count, because he's a moron. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, I guess. Well, it's making him wealthy, so it is beautiful to him. I, for one, can think of an incredible number of words more beautiful than tariffs, as can I. But tariffs is not a word without its merits. As far as magic words go, tariffs is actually quite malleable. Its awesome market-moving power can be tempered and or redirected just by changing up the words placed around it. For instance, again, if Trump had tweeted something like this, Chairman Xi can suck my dick because America is going to make the biggest tariffs ever, hashtag MAGA, the bigliest, then investors around the world will quite reasonably start worrying that an orange madman is about to hurl the world's second largest economy into a trade war against the world's largest economy, and global markets would crash. If, on the other hand, he rage tweets some weak sauce excuse for temporarily postponing those same bigliest tariffs ever, investors will assume that the trade war has been called off and prices will hopefully go back up to roughly where they were before the now postponed bigliest tariffs ever were announced. And again, somebody makes money on the way up and down throughout that. Obviously,
we do a little trolling. It's called we do a little trolling.
Right? Exactly. And he would also say, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That's really nice. Thank you.
Right. So obviously, if you know with certainty that the price of a thing is about to go up or down, you can make money by buying that thing, waiting a bit, and then selling it to someone at the new and higher price. How much money you can make depends mostly on the size of the market. Bigger markets with more participants present more opportunities to make trades happen. And what's the biggest, most liquid market in the world? America's financial markets are so massive and so liquid that you can make millions of dollars just by knowing that the price of a single company's stock is going to go up by 5% in the next 30 minutes. Now imagine how much money you could make if you knew that the same share price of every single publicly traded American corporation was about to go up by 5% in the next 30 minutes. Put all that stuff together, and this is the picture that emerges as of April. Anyone who knows the stock price of a company is about to go up or down can make a lot of money. Or a crypto, by the way. Anyone who knows that the stock price of every company in the United States is about to go up or down can make an almost unlimited amount of money. Trump's mean tweets have the power to make the stock price of every company in America go up or down anytime he wants to. He also can single out a specific company and make it go up or down anytime he wants to, and he's done that before. Anyone who knows what Trump's next mean tweet will say about tariffs knows when stock prices of every company in America will go up or down. That's what just happened to cause the market to crash, but someone cashed out $200 million within 30 minutes of that happening. That's what was being described here. And it didn't happen through stock. It happened through crypto, which is just another way for the Trump admin to launder money at this point. Now, what's really interesting is I also brought this from Cointelegraph, which points out that 3 Bitcoin charts to watch after the price fell from over 125,000 to 103,000. It was, again, a 7 or 8% correction, more than that. All right, but it's already back to 111 or 112,000. But what I wanted to show was that the price had already rebounded by 8.5%. All right, but it still remains down 11% from its record high set earlier in the week. 103,000 is still insanely high. Insanely high. And it's only going to go up from here. the speculation is that it's going to go nowhere but up from here, actually. Can Bitcoin's recovery extend further? 3 charts indicate favorable technical conditions for a potential rally in the coming days or weeks. All right. That the trend was unfazed by a $5.3 billion wipeout. If they can absorb that and just move on, that's bad for everybody else because they're not going to be able to sustain, but the institutional investors will. It's dangerous. And remember, our friend Golden Monarch, who's probably losing his mind in the stream, he just showed up. Welcome, my brother OMB. All right, that Bitcoin is a Zionist manipulation project. Okay, that it's all fake and it's all manipulation at this point. And this entire run up and the scarcity and all of it is, I don't want to call it a Ponzi, though we have in the past, because a Ponzi is them trying to sell you on something. But here they're using hype to sell you. And they're not directly promising returns, but they're using their little hype monsters like that Valentina Gomez and Max Kaiser and their little dancing clowns, Dominic Bay, to tell you how great their returns are. And it's like Matthew Lesko, free money to pay your bills. Like, they have an infrastructure. So yes, I believe that all the money that's put into Bitcoin is sucked out and put into some other investment vehicle. It doesn't just sit there. But you have to tie up your money while it sits there. And you get no use of that money and no return on that money until you sell. To me, it's the worst kind of investment there is. And it's not really an investment.
Have a good time with your Bitcoin,
Though some have
your
bought
crypto,
low.
and everything else that you're playing with.
Some have bought low and sold high. All right. And they've made money out of it. And the ones who have done the best are the ones that converted a crypto wallet into actual real world property, like Charlie Robinson, that leveraged his Bitcoin to actually buy the activist Post and purchased a media entity, which was at one point on the top 100 list of banned websites, and reignited it. Right. Delio Nostrum, this is why we need a moneyless system. Just saying. Agreed. All right. They can fill the bubbles that pop with the push of a button now. We already kissed reality goodbye a while ago, and sounds like Mikhail has been studying up and really sees what's happening, and that they're really just using crypto to introduce digital currency, which is going to eliminate, physical cash and allow them to become gatekeepers and control where your wallet will work and where it won't. And of course, in order to activate your wallet, you'll need to have a smartphone with an app on it that they can track, and they can tell you exactly where your wallet has been and what you can and can't buy. Potentially. Really scary. So we're not going to get remonetized. You know what? YouTube likes crypto, but we're not monetized on YouTube. So if you're able to support, try to do it a different way. Cash App, $, Indie News Network, co-fi.com/Indie News Network. You go to paypal.me/Indie News Network, that indienewsnow.com, where we are live right now. There's a section to watch live, and we are live. Whenever INN's live, you can watch us there. We're also live over at indiemediatoday.com over on Substack. Welcome to everybody that's over there hanging out in chat. I see Cindy over at The Revolution Continues. Good to see you. And INNnewsletter.com. Again, we're going to be there live later for our React show, which is boats smashing into other boats. Go starts over on Rumble as well. If I roll pipe tobacco, because it doesn't have the added. Oh, that you roll pipe tobacco. It doesn't have the chemical additives. Interesting. I gave up tobacco.
I mean, you could just not too.
15 years ago. Yeah. I quit tobacco. I just smoke the wacky tobacco now.
Agreed. I don't even smoke it anymore. Practically.
Right.
We
vaporize. We vape it. So.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
Or eat it.
Number 3, we're going to talk a little bit about media control and manipulation. We talked a little bit about Al Jazeera earlier and the fact that Israel was trying to influence Al Jazeera in West Bank after shutting it down in Gaza. I believe they're now shutting down the one in West Bank. And part of it was after this kind of report. Did Trump and Netanyahu force Qatar to purge Al Jazeera? And again, didn't hear this discussed anywhere else, but Israel-Palestine News is an excellent outlet that is another aggregator and brings in specific news dedicated to Israel and Palestine, run by, I think her name is Allison Weir. She is on Twitter at If Americans Knew. Israeli journalist Amit Siegel writes on October 6th in his blog, It's Noon in Israel, quote, my Israeli Channel 12 colleague Ehud Yaari explained that, quote, Qatar is carrying out a purge at Al Jazeera. The director's gone, the deputy's gone, and this comes together with a gradual softening of the network's editorial line. For example, Al Jazeera now, instead of praising and boasting the actions of Hamas's military wing, is focusing more on the humanitarian situation in Gaza. Why? Well, this is apparently part of an understanding between them and the United States, under which Al Jazeera will reduce the amount of incitement it spreads throughout the Middle East, Yaari explained. Refresh my memory, Reef. There was an announcement this week about a base in South Dakota being licensed. What country again was it that? What country was it again that was allowed to have that base?
I think it was Qatar.
I believe it was Qatar.
I remember correct.
Huh. And where is Al Jazeera based again?
Qatar.
Oh, right. Okay. I think I'm starting to see what happened here. Wanting more information, I asked an intelligence official for their thoughts. Here's what they told me. Quote, yesterday I read several times that Hamas is very unhappy with changes at Al Jazeera. The two had even had an apology call, according to the official, during which they agreed upon the fact that Trump and Netanyahu forced the Qataris to change direction. Quote, but did the official buy this narrative? I thought they were fantasizing, they said. But then I happened to see this, and then I went to Al Jazeera's homepage, which really doesn't look the same as it did a week ago. Back then, it had dozens of articles about Gaza against Israel. Now, you can see for yourself a neutral main headline, another fairly neutral one about the flotilla, and that's it. The bottom line, if this is a real shift, it's a huge game changer, they said. So look for Trump and Netanyahu to now be controlling the narrative at Al Jazeera. Amit Sega is an Israeli journalist and television personality. He serves as chief political analyst for Israel's leading news outlet, Channel 12 News, and the country's most read newspaper, Israel Hayom, which means today. Siegel also anchors Israel's highly watched Meet the Press show on Channel 12. This isn't the first time Qatar has been pressured to censor Al Jazeera. An Al Jazeera documentary about the Israel lobby in the U.S. was censored when Jewish Americans such as Dershowitz Squirts, pressured Qatar to block it. It did play in the UK. That was called The Lobby, and it exposed several Americans, including Marshall from the Realignment. I think, what's his name? Kozlov. And then Jordan Schachtel, who they outed as an agent, an operative who was writing op-eds on behalf of the IDF in Israel and maybe Mossad, but doing it behind the shadows without letting anyone know who he was working for. Total conflict of interest as a journalist. He was a propagandist. And in truth, he almost got an Indie Media Award on, and we started looking him up and we found this. And we were like, holy shit. But that wasn't the only outlet that's now being further controlled by Zionists. Famously, we've been talking about how Paramount and Skydance bought Paramount. Skydance is the company run by Larry Ellison's son, David. Multi-billions of dollars. Skydance then purchased the Free Press this week, which closed. The Free Press is one of the largest Substack outlets, valued at over $100 million, funded by VC and private equity, and now bought out by Paramount and Skydance, where they then have promoted Bari Weiss to the head of CBS News. Now, the day Bari Weiss, who used to work at the New York Times, quit in 2020, there's always a Rafat tweet. Anti-Israeli, anti-Palestinian bigot Bari Weiss will get a better and more paying job. That was July 14th, 2020. And he knew exactly what was happening. And of course, Bari Weiss, he accuses of having him personally targeted and murdered. And hopefully his ghost will haunt her for the rest of her life. All right, but according to Decensored News, it's official. Paramount and its chairman and CEO, David Ellison, son of Larry, have now confirmed reports that it's acquiring Bari Weiss's Free Press, and Weiss will join CBS News as editor-in-chief and report directly to Ellison, not to the board of CBS. Bypassing, she has no boss except for the guy that bought the company. Okay, according to this, that's just their own press release, so who cares? Right? Bullshit. Now,
bullshit.
The man who is very excited about this, and the company that is most excited about this, I think, other than the people who worked at the Free Press and the VC investors that got cashed out,
coming to a Substack newsletter near you,
would be the owners and co-founders of Substack that have seen now one of their publications that was built exclusively on their platform from nothing be sold for $150 million. And because they don't see that
capitalism.
Well, they don't see that it's a mechanism to control one of the most influential, allegedly, but one of the largest subscriber-based outlets there is on that platform, and then control that narrative. Okay? It's so what Hamish, who is ever the optimist and the capitalist, there's never been a better time to start a media company. The Free Press went from 0 to 150 million in acquisition in 3 years. Team Zateo, run by shitlib Mehdi Hassan and invested in by private equity. The Bulwark, another shitlib outlet, and Emily Sundberg, who I don't even know. All right, but she's also a top seller, and many more. I would guess Matt Taibbi and the Racket News are all on similar trajectories. He believes that media businesses will be among the most profitable opportunities in this new era, as long as they're willing to kowtow to Israel's line and bullshit. We need human connection and understanding more than ever. And remember that Stripe controls...
moron. Good for Happy Gilmore. Oh, my God.
Remember that Stripe controls the financial monetization aspect of this. Stripe is run by a Zionist, and Stripe is wanting to be able to have control over whether they can monetize you or not based on what you say. So there's an article here that Hamish had shared, the Home for Media Startups. I'm not going to share it, but they did a live stream, Hamish and Chris, to kind of brag and spike the football a little bit. So yesterday, and I jumped onto this live stream, and I congratulated them because it is a big thing for them as a company that built this platform that within 3 years had a company emerge from it that was sold for that kind of money. That's an accomplishment one way or another, whether you like them or not.
And your nose got brown for doing it.
Shut up. Because I couldn't even say it. I got censored. I said it felt like I was censored and prevented
the censoring
from chatting during this live stream, but saw that others were able to chat. Is there a reason why? I wanted to ask if there was going to be a mechanism added to allow a business to transfer a Substack to a new primary email address if it's sold, like in this case of the Free Press. You know, Bari Weiss doesn't want to hand over her personal email address to Paramount, but I guess for $150 million, she can have another one. But still, that's kind of weird.
Right.
My understanding is that it's not possible at this time to even transfer a publication, hoping that a sale of this size would get leadership to look at that and try to allow for that to happen in the future. Also, thanks to my friend Michael down in South Africa, I understand that publications can't be split out from their owner's original account and transferred to different owners in case of a sale either. Doesn't make much sense. It started as a discussion about what happens to a publication when someone dies, but quickly evolved into more. So I went to put that in here on the chats, and you can see that I tried to enter that, and there's a chat afterwards. Well, I find out afterwards, somebody pointed out that the reason why you couldn't chat was because it's a paid subscription only. They gatekeep and they paywall their own chat. It's at a publication's discretion. She says, I personally see it as good policy. Otherwise, dissenters may tend to troll. That's annoying no matter what your political orientation or views are in any particular subject. However, the downside is usually paid subs applaud whatever's said, so you generally don't get robust discussion in my experience. And what I said was, yeah, okay, if you're a creator, it's one thing. If it's your platform and you're going live publicly, but yet you're going to filter out who can speak by only the ones that pay you, that's fucked up. Not the best look, especially when they talk about being champions of free speech. Agreed. I'm sure they're aware of possible pushback and they don't give a shit. These announcements are managed. You bet they are. And so what happened over at the Free Press immediately, or over at CBS News as soon as Bari Weiss took over? Well, the first thing she did was she booked a panel discussion with former secretaries of state, including Hillary Clinton and Condoleezza Rice. So I found this funny note over on Substack by the good citizen. Bari Weiss is a genius. Hillary Clinton and Condoleezza Rice talk about working for Israel like Bari does. 145 live viewers at 5 different nursing homes tuned in to watch it live. Worth every one of the 6 bazillion shekels paid by the Zio, CIA, Mossad, Ellison family, money laundered in from Tel Aviv, looted from the district of Chabad. The worse the propaganda gets, the more money they will pay half-wits like Bari to keep the bar extremely low. To them, it doesn't matter what made up the value they put on their slop, because it all comes from West Israeli taxpayers anyway. 1,100 people watching 2 former secretaries of state live on a major fucking network. That's
Pokemon go to the polls.
Dude, Jimmy Dore has
this
15
photo
times that.
This photo, first of all, is like a historic. It should be printed for years, only because they're trying to equate Hillary Clinton and Condoleezza Rice as different,
right?
When they are the same. Like, as is Bari Weiss.
Yep.
Like, they are just past, present, and future all in one thing.
Now,
like,
apparently, the new boss had something to say. All right. The Writers Guild urged CBS News staffers not to respond, all right, to Bari Weiss's info-seeking memo until the company provides details on the purpose of her email. What? What's going on here?
Mm-hmm.
And this is an exclusive, all right, that to Variety, so that's why I'm bringing the Variety article. The Writers Guild of America told union employees that it represents at CBS News to not respond to an email requesting information sent to staff by Bari Weiss, the Free Press founder who this week was appointed CBS News' editor-in-chief, until CBS provides more details on what the purpose of her missive is, including whether their replies could serve as a basis for discipline, discharge, or layoff. I would say that it would. The Free Press, launched by conservative-leaning Weiss in 2021, was acquired this week by Paramount Skydance, parent of CBS. As part of the deal, reported to be worth $150 million, Weiss has oversight of CBS News' editorial operations. Weiss told CBS News staffers in a memo Friday morning that she was eager to understand how you spend your working hours and ideally what you've made or are making that you're most proud of. She asked every employee at the news division to send her a memo providing these details by Tuesday, as well as your views on what's working, what's broken or substandard, and how we can be better. Weiss said all responses will be held in the strictest of confidence. This is, remember,
Of course it is.
what Musk did to all the federal employees, made them write up a letter saying how you spend your week, and it had to be due by Friday at 5 or you're fired.
Right.
In an email to Writers Guild members obtained by Variety, union reps said, quote, "We're aware that Bari Weiss sent an email asking CBS employees to provide information about their jobs and feedback about CBS News. Many of you have expressed your concern to us about the purpose of the email, and we share those concerns. That's why we sent the company an immediate demand to provide information about the email by Monday. We suggest that you refrain from responding until we're able to share the information that we receive so that you can make an informed decision by the Tuesday deadline." The Writers Guild email was sent by Michael Isaac, director of the broadcast cable streaming news, and field reps Brandon West, Sophie Morton, and Dean, whoever his name is. Doesn't matter who it is. Reps for CBS, of course, did not immediately respond to requests for comment because they're not going to. Writers Guild East represents unionized employees at CBS News, as well as CBS News Digital, likely based in New York and D.C. Weiss's memo to CBS News team called to mind a program established by the Trump admin earlier this year by the Doge, led by Elon Musk. Starting in February, he demanded that federal workers file every week a list of 5 things that they had accomplished in the past week. Failure to respond will be taken as a resignation, he had written in a post on Twitter announcing the policy. In August, the White House officially ended those 5 things weekly emails. They had to do it every week for 6 fucking months. Copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. Nobody ever looked at it. But in the case that they ever wanted to use it against you for any reason, they then had that on file. Per the union, per the email from the union reps, the union has asked for the following information from CBS: who received the email, who will have access to the responses that the employees provide, will employees' responses be the basis for discipline, discharge, or layoff, will employees be disciplined if they don't respond, what does the company intend to do with the responses, will the company use AI technology to review the responses, and if so, what prompts will be given, and what steps will be taken to ensure that the results are non-discriminatory. To which Skydance will say, "We're a private company, go fuck yourself." Which I'm sure we're about to read. According to a memo from Paramount Skydance CEO David Ellison, Weiss will help ensure that our reporting remains relevant, accessible, and most importantly, Israel-friendly, trusted in this new era for American media. So remember, they've now taken over TikTok, they've now taken over CBS News, and they've now taken over one of the largest Substack publications in the world. All in the span of about 3 months. Fuck Israel, because that's who's, of course, behind most of this. And why this is all happening is to shut down the narrative. So, start a Substack. Maybe Oracle will buy you out. Maybe Larry Ellison, if you're a Zionist-friendly outlet, there's money there. I guarantee you that's what Matt Taibbi's hoping on. That's why he's kept his mouth shut.
Substack newsletter near you.
All right. Everyone on Substack is saying general strike. Well, we would have to start by general striking Substack. I think that would be your first step, would be not publishing there. Make them feel it. As well as general strike across the board for sure. But if you're going to continue to publish on that platform that just benefited massively from Bari Weiss selling out and now being made one of the chief propagandists at one of the largest, corporate media outlets in the world, that's where we got to start. And maybe we all start to exit an Exodus Substack. That might be the way to go. And the problem is, I don't think that they care if we leave. They don't. The best place, honestly,
Nope.
Revolution continues. What best place to publish outside of Substack? We're doing it over at WordPress. That is self-hosted and open source, WordPress.org. You can get yourself some server space and download WordPress.org, host it on your own server, and nobody can take you down as long as they don't take down your host or your ISP. But you also don't get the massive reach and engagement that the investment in that the Substack founders have made that we all benefit from, the referral network and everything else. So it's a double-edged sword. But the point is that if we really are talking about general strike, we've got to be willing to general strike publishing to their platforms as well. That includes YouTube. That includes Rumble. Self-publish. And you have to find us there. You know, underground radio, underground kind of live streaming. And that's why we created IndieNewsNow.com. That's exactly why. Unfortunately, the only way to chat right now is through Discord, another one of those massive platforms. We're not going to be remonetized by YouTube for talking about this and challenging corporate media's rule and control. So if you're able to and it means, please support the media you want to see by contributing over at Cash App, $ Indie News Network. You can have ko-fi.com/Indie News Network. You got paypal.me/Indie News Network. Okay, you got IndieNewsNow.com. I just mentioned that. And then we've got the newsletters over at Substack, IndieMediaToday.com. We're monetized there for now. And at INNNewsletter.com. That's done through Stripe. If Stripe ever decided they wanted to shut us off, we'd be in a lot of trouble. Because that's where a lot of the money that we earn comes from and is being filtered through. PayPal is the other way. The third way is via Stripe. Not Stripe, via Cash App, which goes through Block/Square, which is a Jack Dorsey company. You know, these payment processors, you can't get away from them, sadly. Come on, Panquake. I don't share your enthusiasm and hope for Panquake, Ghost Start. I'm sorry.
Yeah, No.
Sorry. And it's
I would
not going
avoid
to replace
that
any of these
at this
platforms.
point.
And if it got anywhere close to that big enough, they would just buy it, take it over, or they would DDoS it until it got dismantled. I genuinely feel that way. Like, no platform is going to be allowed to exist in this environment anymore and grow to the point of having that level of influence if Israel and the Zionist lobby doesn't want it to. Okay. We're going to get to the Aspen story now. All right. This is a very personal story for all of us. All right. So this is one of the tweets that I made about it, but I'll start by saying that, you know, we've been Assange activists for the better part of 5 years, even since he got let out of prison. There's still a group of activists that stay in touch and network and are connected. And one of the activists who was, yes, the Julian Assanges, one of the activists in the United States who held everyone together was Halo Benson of Oklahoma for Assange. Halo had put together letter writing campaigns and postcard campaigns and went out and protested at her local offices, government offices, and hosted a showing in her local movie theater of Ithaca, which was the documentary that Julian's father and brother had made about him being arrested and the struggle to get him out. And we love Halo, Halo's family. About 5 months ago, and Halo has a daughter named Aspen. And Halo, I think, has another kid also. About 5 months ago, Halo reached out and said that Aspen was in some trouble. And we actually talked about it on this show. And we put up her GoFundMe at the time. But Aspen got caught and she got arrested. And we're going to talk about her story, and the eloquent and brilliant Descent in Bloom, thankfully, listened to me rant and talk about Aspen's story and about what happened, and decided to look into it a little further, research the whole thing, and write herself an article and write everyone an article to really understand just what happened here, what Aspen is facing, and what we might be able to do to help. And so she wrote this article, and we are now all hands on deck trying to share and raise awareness and help raise money for this legal defense fund. The article reads that, quote, the headline, "She was starved, neglected, and degraded, yet she held her humanity." My tweet was that this is a horrifyingly frightening article by Descent in Bloom about the story of Aspen Martin and her mother, Halo Benson. Please read this and help if you can. Sharing is one way that everyone can help, even if you don't have funds to contribute. There have been a good amount of quotes, tweets, and retweets. Lisa, who's saying we must help Aspen, please do everything you can. And Charlie Mack, amazing. Kieran Pine, who's here in chat. But I also wanted to put, this was my other quote tweet. This is literally the worst case nightmare scenario for any parent. I'm going to set this up this way. Imagine that your daughter gets into what turns out to be the wrong car, set up by someone that she implicitly trusted. And she's now likely facing decades in a federal prison for drug trafficking. So we're going to read this story, and we'll go through exactly what happened here. So again, descentinbloom.substack.com. This is the story of an autistic woman of color, Aspen, who was failed by Peach County, Georgia. Facing around 33 years or more in prison, she's locked in a legal fight against a system that continues to harm people. She starts that when a young woman left Oklahoma in May, she thought she was taking a short trip to visit friends. It was a chance to see familiar faces who had since moved away from home, an opportunity to clear her head. She's only 27. Her name is Aspen. She's autistic, an artist, an activist, and a quiet soul who tries to see the good in people no matter what. But within days, that trip she'd been looking forward to had become a nightmare. After a music festival in Florida, the RV she was riding in was pulled over on a highway in Peach County, Georgia. Officers claimed they smelled marijuana. By nightfall, she was locked inside a rural jail she'd never heard of, accused of trafficking drugs she didn't own or even know about, and trapped inside a system that didn't understand her and didn't care to.
Have you been smoking marijuana?
For 15 days, she'd endured starvation, humiliation, and medical neglect. She lost 9 pounds in 2 weeks. A lifelong vegetarian, she was denied truly meat-free meals and grew violently ill from the little food they give her. When the jail ran out of toilet paper and pads, a common occurrence there, her mother offered to donate supplies. The sheriff's office refused. She's home now on bail, but not free. Released on bond in June, she waits for the next court date, her life suspended between hearings and legal bill invoices. The fight didn't end at the jail door. It just got more expensive. If convicted, Aspen could face up to 33 years in prison for a crime she didn't commit. She would become a convicted felon, which means she would also lose her voting rights, whatever voting rights mean at this point. Her family's created a GoFundMe to attempt to raise money for the trial, but has only been able to get a fraction of the money needed for legal representation so far. In a facility that boasts recreational and medical services, she found neither. And I'm going to show that GoFundMe for a second here. I'm going to put the link to the GoFundMe in here. That was as of last night. We had raised over $3,600, and now that is up to over $3,800, which raised more than $2,000 since this article published yesterday. So my goodness, thank you to everyone who has contributed. It makes a light year of difference. Light years. How did we get here? It started as something good. A road trip, a little escape. Aspen had been working on art, trying to recover from burnout, and needed to change the scenery. She was planning to enroll in college for criminal psychology in the fall. So when her best friend, who had since moved away, had invited her to stay with them for a couple weeks to join them at a music festivals for the summer, It felt like the first breath of freedom that she'd had in months. She packed light, her art supplies, a few clothes, her medication. The plan was to dance under the sun, see the people she hadn't seen in years, then head back home at the end of the summer. But on the way back from a Florida music festival, everything changed. They were driving through Georgia. The highway stretched wide and empty, that's Highway 75, when flashing lights appeared behind them. The officers said they smelled marijuana. They pulled over the RV and searched it, tore through bags and boxes, and found drugs that didn't belong to her. She told officers she knew nothing about it. The man driving the RV told them too. He told the magistrate too. Didn't matter. Everyone inside was charged with trafficking. This is despite the fact that Georgia doesn't have an actual party law saying that they had to do that. They just did it because they could. Aspen ended up locked inside a small county jail she'd never heard of. She tried to explain that she was autistic, that she needed her medication, that she didn't understand what was happening, but the system didn't care. To them, she was another body in a cell, another case number. Now, months later, Aspen's home, but stuck in the purgatory of the criminal process. Endless delays, paperwork, and costs that bleed her family dry. She's facing up to 33 years in prison for trusting the wrong person. By the way, as this Enton Bloom says, she's in chat, those are pics from the actual jail.
Right.
Her mother, Halo, is fighting to keep her daughter from slipping back into a system that already broke her once. Every call to a lawyer is another bill. Every delay feels like a threat. All of this, a trip, a stop, a jail, a bond, for something she didn't do. She was a passenger. That's how easily it happens in America. One highway, one search, one accusation, and suddenly your life belongs to the state. 15 days. That's all it took to break her body and teach her what the state of Georgia calls correction, quote unquote. She was processed, stripped, placed into a paper-thin county jumpsuit and forgotten. The cell was small, the air freezing cold at all times. She couldn't tell if it was morning or night, if the world outside still existed. They weren't allowed outdoors, not even once. I've never heard of that. And the windows were covered in dark security film that sealed them off from the sun, from time itself. The days blurred together. There were no clocks in her cell, no sunlight, no change in temperature, just the same fluorescent hum and freezing air that left her bones aching. Every meal was a battle between hunger and nausea. By the end of 2 weeks, she'd lost 9 pounds. When she needed medical help, it became another fight. She asked for an ibuprofen for a migraine in the morning and didn't get it until bedtime. She asked for a rescue inhaler for asthma, and it never came, even though the nurse told her mother that she'd been given one. This is a prime example of why people die in Peach County. She had to fight to receive her B12 injections for chronic pernicious anemia, the one thing her body can't survive without. The nurse refused to speak to her mother, citing HIPAA, but wouldn't let Aspen sign the release form that would have made communication legal. Her mother eventually had to hire a lawyer just to get her medical care. And even then, the nurse resisted the attorney's request. That cost thousands that they didn't have. In her pod, which is the common area, there was another woman, someone with severe developmental disabilities, who seemed lost most of the time, unable to follow what was happening around her. Aspen said it was like watching a child trapped in a place meant to break adults. Even after she got out, she couldn't stop thinking about this woman. One of the first things she told her mother after being released was that they have to try to get that girl help. And by the way, I interviewed them this week, and they said the same thing to me. Because even after everything she'd endured, the cold, the sickness, the hunger, Aspen was still worried about someone else, The first thing she asked her mother to do once released on bail was to help that girl. By the way, incarcerated people with cognitive disabilities are more likely to be placed in solitary confinement, denied medical care, and ignored when they ask for help. Remember that Julian is also autistic and was put in solitary for years. The Bureau of Justice Statistics states that nearly a quarter of all prisoners report a cognitive disability. Yet, of course, few jails have training for sensory needs. Sadly, this statistic rang true in Aspen's case. Jail wasn't just confinement, it was sensory chaos. The kind of environment that turns sound, light, and human cruelty into physical pain. The lights never dimmed. The buzz of the fluorescent fixtures burned through her eyelids even when she tried to sleep. Every clang of a metal door hit her like a shockwave. For most people, these sounds fade into background noise, but for her, they were sharp and endless, a wall of noise that she couldn't shut out. They didn't see her autism, they saw defiance. They didn't see sensory overload, they saw attitude. Even simple communication broke down. She processes language literally and slowly when under stress, as do most of us, but the jail moved fast and punished hesitation. The guards didn't care if she didn't understand or needed time to process what they'd said. They took her silence as disrespect. Another statistic that 4.4% of inmates meet criteria for autism spectrum disorder, a rate about 4 times higher than in the general population. Yet accommodations for people with this disability often don't exist in jails. The system was not built to accommodate people like Aspen. It was built to crush them, to kill them. Autism changes how the world is processed. For people like us, and again, Descent in Bloom is also autistic, every sound is louder, every smell stronger, every rule less clear. When guards barked orders or changed routines without warning, it left her disoriented and terrified of doing something wrong. She was in a strange place in a land far away from home. The lack of structure, the lack of familiarity, the constant punishment, the mocking when she asked questions, it all stripped away her ability to regulate, to think, and to breathe. And her time there was filled with sound. The sounds of clanking metal and screaming. The sound of fists pounding against steel doors and men fighting in the ward next to hers and violence echoing through concrete for what felt like forever. When she realized someone could be hurt, she banged on her door trying to get help. She felt it deeper than others may have. Autistic people have an instinct to protect and stand up for what's right. That's called justice sensitivity. It's a feeling that won't let them stay silent when someone is suffering. It's almost visceral. They can't help themselves. So she hit the door again and again until her hands hurt to get help. Even then, it took ages for anyone to come. In Peach County Jail, noise was the only way to get help, banging on the door. Georgia's prisons, by the way, are so dangerous and mismanaged that they routinely violate inmates' constitutional rights, allowing rampant violence and sexual abuse. Gangs control much of the system, while understaffing and corruption let the abuse continue unchecked. It's literally hell. Now she gets into just why this is allowed to happen. We talk about the fiefdom of Georgia jails. Peach County Jail isn't just a building, it's a kingdom. And the man who runs it isn't a warden. He's a constitutional officer with powers older than most of the laws that govern him. His office sits in the same building as the jail, giving him near total control over what happens inside. See, in Georgia, the sheriff isn't a county employee. He is a state constitutional officer listed in the Georgia Constitution as independent from local government. That independence means he alone controls the jail's policies, staff, and medical care. The county pays the bills, but cannot tell him how to spend them. His name is Robert Buck Shadden. He took office this year, But the jail's reputation, of course, didn't start with him. The abuses predate his tenure by decades. Peach County, Georgia, is a place where people die from medical neglect and guards sexually assault inmates. It's a carceral system where the DOJ released a 93-page document of the unconstitutional conditions in 2024, including inmates being abused and subjected to violence. That is Buck Shannon. But the new sheriff, Shannon, he promised reform. He talked about focusing on mental health, about hope, and about fixing what was broken. But inside Peach County Jail, it seems like nothing ever changed at all but the name on the sheriff's door. Something else that Descent Bloom found is that Georgia, if someone dies, is starved, or denied medical treatment, all right, in Georgia, the county will claim that it's not responsible. Victims can't sue the state either because Georgia protects itself under sovereign immunity. So when the sheriff acts in his official capacity, the law says he represents the state, and the state can't be sued unless it chooses to be. It almost never does. It's insane when you realize what that means. The jail and the sheriff report to the state of Georgia, and the state is responsible. The state gave itself immunity, and the sheriff operates under that protection. You can't sue the county. It's not responsible. You can't sue the state. It decided it doesn't have to answer for anything. It's a self-cleaning system of abuse, which is exactly what happened in 2022 under the previous sheriff. Inmate Maurice Campbell died in Peach County custody after staff ignored repeated pleas for medical care, and his family sued. They said that the staff watched his mental health collapse. They ignored signs of kidney failure and never sent him to a hospital. His family sued, arguing that his death was caused by Peach County's own policy and procedure for medical aid for inmates. The court dismissed it. They said county wasn't responsible. The sheriff was immune under the state sovereignty laws. And the state deemed his death a bureaucratic tragedy rather than a constitutional one. This is exactly why we have to help Halo fight for her daughter, Aspen. She doesn't belong in a system like this one that starves, isolates, and abandons people with medical conditions that it doesn't understand or care about. Her body already paid the price once. 15 days was enough to show how little that place cares for anyone's survival, let alone someone like her. Halo's doing everything she can, but she's one person against an entire system built to grind people down and hold themselves unaccountable. Even public accountability is locked away. The Peach County Jail's Google reviews are disabled. No one can post, and no one can warn others, and no one can speak. How convenient. So where does this leave us now? When a system is built to shield itself from accountability, why do I hear myself in your thing?
I don't know, you shouldn't.
I hear echo. When a system is built to shield itself from accountability, stories like Aspen's stop being accidents. They become policy. Georgia's jails operate like kingdoms, each sheriff ruling their own fiefdom under the protection of sovereign immunity. When someone dies, when someone is starved or denied care, the county shrugs, the state hides behind its own laws, and the cycle repeats. Aspen survived, barely. That was only 15 days in. She came home with her body thinner, her faith smaller, and her future put on hold. The degree she wanted to earn, in criminal psychology of all things, feels almost like a cruel irony now. She wanted to understand how people became trapped in the system. Instead, the system came for her. Also, if she's convicted or, if she's got this on her record, she can never become a criminal psychologist. It literally negates her from having the job she wanted. Halo, her mother, is still fighting. God love her, and we do. Not just for her daughter's case, but for the idea that what happened in Peach County shouldn't happen to anyone, not to another autistic woman, not to another person with a disability, not to another soul whose humanity gets lost in bureaucracy. Georgia won't reform itself. It never does. Change will only come when people stop pretending these stories are isolated, when the names stop being forgotten, and when we treat survival as the beginning of justice, not the end of it. Aspen's story isn't over. It's a warning. Georgia needs a change, and it needs it yesterday. Disabilities like autism deserve to be understood by a legal system that doesn't weaponize ignorance or hide behind immunity. And when she asked if she had a message for the world, Aspen responded that this could happen to anyone, which is true. She didn't do anything wrong except get in the wrong car, and she can face up to 33 years in prison for something she didn't do. There has to be accountability. There has to be care. It shouldn't take a fucking lawyer to get medical treatment, and no one should have to die to prove that the system is broken. Next Saturday, this coming Saturday night, we're going to live stream it, an interview with me and her mother and Aspen and her mom, Halo. Okay, we'll be live streamed here on Descent in Bloom Substack. We're going to co-stream it there as well. I highly encourage you to listen to their story. Aspen also told me a story about when they pulled her over on Highway 75. She has a condition where she needs to use the bathroom, and she asked to go back into the RV to use the bathroom. The cop told her no and go on the side of the road, and not forced her, but if she wanted to go, which she had to pull her pants down and urinate on the side of the Highway 75. Georgia State Trooper made her do that. Fucking disgraceful. Halo. This is Halo's tweet with her GoFundMe, pinned to @HaloBenson on Twitter. Aspen, my daughter, is facing devastating charges after a trip gone wrong. We need to raise $7,500 for her defense. Please help us and share her story. Every bit counts. And like I said, the people who read this have been amazing. I went to bed with a big smile on my face the other night and a warm heart, because we more than doubled what was sitting in her GoFundMe. And I'm going to refresh it now. There's $38.22 sitting there right now. And looks like we got another $100. So thank you to whoever just recently put in the 100. Misty, of course, was the first donation. We got a $500 donation last night. And Natalie Williams, of course, it was Natalie. We love you. Thank you so much, really. Natalie's the best of us. Wow. And yeah, I got to sit and talk with them for the better part of an hour. We're also planning on a fundraising live stream. I'm going to announce the details on that Saturday night before and after our one-on-one airs. And actually, if you were watching last night, it mistakenly ended up going out in place of my one-on-one with Shanda on the Beauty and the Boomer channel, and then made private afterwards. But for the 15 or 20 people that did get to see it there, you got to sneak preview. We love you. Thank you for bearing with us through that. But I love Halo, and I'm heartbroken by this. I'm a father, and a father of daughters I listened to a radio host by the name of Colin Cowherd, and Colin had talked a long time ago about how one of the things he was most afraid of and that he couldn't control was his kids getting in the wrong car with someone. And this is literally the worst case of someone getting in the wrong car that I've ever heard.
Especially with ride sharing being a thing now,
Well, yes,
like,
but this was...
I don't know if that Uber receipt would give you the fucking out that they,
Well, no, this was going on a ride out through multiple states in an RV with a friend that she allegedly was trusting. And
yeah, but still, I mean, any of that could be like you get pulled over in your Uber, you know? Like, but yeah.
Metal Mama Sue says there are
Thank
endless
you.
horror stories. There's another one that's horrific. All right. And that's from Houston. Kieran Pine, thank you for the organizing and all the work that you're doing to help bring everyone together to work to raise some money to support Aspen's legal defense fund and provide moral support also to let her know that there is a family of people behind her that most people don't have. And Aspen and Halo were so grateful and did not take for 1 second for granted the fact that there is a massive group of people here to support them that a lot of people don't necessarily have. Cindy,
Which
thank
all
you
this
so
over
much.
marijuana is so stupid.
Well, it wasn't
Like-
just over marijuana, because when they searched the vehicle, they found a lot more
Okay.
hard drugs in the thing, but he didn't even know they were in the vehicle, let alone that the person that drove them
Right.
was selling them at festivals and that this was a thing. She had no idea.
Yeah.
She never would have gone. She was lied to. She was manipulated and put in a position where she's now facing decades and losing most of her adult future for trusting the wrong guy who was a family friend. It's just awful. I mean, just in so many ways, I feel so awful for her. And I'm doing what I can in both hosting them for a one-on-one, in amplifying this story for them, in telling my friends about it, and being lucky enough and amazing enough person that Descent in Bloom is to listen to me complaining and screaming about this, that she decided to write this and help get Aspen some financial relief, even if it's just a little bit. Halo also talked about how she spent 2 weeks sleeping in her car. Those 15 days that Aspen was in jail, Halo drove to the county lockup and she slept in her car at night while she tried to organize getting things. So maybe some of this GoFundMe money helps to pay for a hotel room for a couple of nights for her during a trial that may happen. They have to pay for experts. They have to pay for so many things, including, of course, the lawyers. And we're looking at tens of thousands of dollars, possibly. So again, thank you to everyone, especially to Descent in Bloom for writing this article and for raising awareness to her audience about Aspen, because this happens to so many people that don't get somebody writing an article about them for it, and they disappear in the system. Man, that was heavy, I know. Thank you for bearing with me. So we're not going to be remonetized for telling a story like that either. If you're able to and have means, please donate to Halo's and Aspen's fund. So there are ways to support here, but right now I would actually rather you give to their GoFundMe. And that link will be in the description afterwards. So I'm not even going to go through the names and the stuff, but I think that that what's appropriate there is to ask people to contribute to her legal fund. And we're going to show some other people that need some money too, because it's not just Aspen. Unfortunately, I've never seen it to this level. So many people in real deep financial danger and hurting. But before we do all of that, I do want to get to the lightning round, because there were some other news things happening that I wanted to reference and talk to people about. So first, this one was funny. You know about those Epstein files that everybody keeps asking about? Well, the Epstein archive was created. 404 Media puts up that a data hoarder figured out how to use AI to create a searchable database of the Epstein files. Now, these are the homogenized Epstein files. These are the ones that have been put out by the Trump administration, and I don't trust AI on top of it. But I just found it interesting that though they're trying to keep the files buried and keep that information quiet, that AI is being used at the same time as a weapon to release that information. Now, I don't think, again, that they're going to let all the information out, and that in time, we'll end up getting gate kept and who created those prompts and exactly what databases they're referencing would be interesting, but I'm guessing that you're not going to see the flight logs, for example. But maybe I'm wrong. But check that out. The website is over at Data Hoarder over on Reddit. All right. The link here is over on GitHub. Total cost 0, hosting cost 0, epstein-docs.github.io. I'm not going to do that. It probably is bugged. But just interesting that they were able to document that and put it out there. I also wanted to mention about the Nobel Prize winner, whatever another propaganda thing. In case you have not been paying attention, the Nobel Prize has been captured and now is being used as a tool to foster regime change and to push narratives and to push somebody that they are using, that they are looking to implement.
Always has been.
To take over a country. Well, so Maria Corina Machado is the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize honoree. Okay. She is, according to Ali Moro, a Zionist, all right, and a MAGA CIA Mossad agent set up to sell out Venezuela to American corporations for profit. Many Latina leaders deserve that platform, and she's not one of them. Don't be fooled. She's not a good representative for Latinas. Please get educated. So I brought a funny video that Descent in Bloom actually made, funny enough. So hang on, I'm going to have to reset this, I'm guessing. And then, yeah, because Instagram sucks when it comes to this thing. So let me refresh this and make sure that we can hear this video, which we will be able to. Here we go. Whoop. And volume.
That Trump didn't win the Nobel Peace Prize. They gave it to someone that deserves it. Someone from Venezuela. I bet he's going to be so mad because he hates Venezuela. So I didn't want to have to be the one to tell you this, but her winning is actually a win for Trump. And it's not a good thing. Wait, what? Yeah, I know most people are happy because they're like, yeah, it's not Trump, it's someone that deserves it, someone fighting for democracy, but she's working with Trump. She actually dedicated the award to him already. In 2017, Trump tried to take over Venezuela because he wanted their oil. Came on video and said it, and they failed. So they're trying again this year, and she's the leader that's going to be placed in office once the United States overthrows Venezuela, if it's allowed to happen. Why do you think they keep bombing those boats? It has nothing to do with narco-terrorists or whatever they say. And she was actually endorsed by Marco Rubio in an official memo earlier this year. Oh yeah, and she also had a presentation that she gave not that long ago in front of the Council of America. That's a big, huge coalition of businesses like Chevron. But instead of focusing on human rights or democracy, she was telling them how much they could benefit from the United States taking over Venezuela. It's on YouTube still. You can still watch it to this day. Wait, so you're saying that her being picked is actually good for him because it helps to create the narrative that Venezuela needs to be invaded by America for democracy? Well, yeah, because if you think that this lady's a hero because she's trying to achieve democracy in Venezuela, then you're not going to really pay any attention when they're bombing Venezuelan boats. I'm so happy that Trump didn't win the Nobel Peace Prize.
Yeah, pretty much. That's a humorous way of explaining to a shitlib just why they should not be happy that a female Latina, they basically manipulated shitlibs by using identity politics. All right. Hilarious that they did the thing. They weaponized identity politics to get the shitlibs excited that they promoted a woman of color, a brown woman of color, and amplified her and elevated her over Trump. But yeah, not exactly. She's also a Bitcoin Zionist, and she's a big Bitcoin advocate. And I know Golden Monarch has been all over that as well. He's been talking about her for a while. Hassan Mafi,
which
go ahead.
I find this whole thing like, we know plenty of journalists who went to Venezuela during that election. Everything was above board. Like, I know McLeod, I know Fee and them.
Rania.
Right.
Okay.
Bunch of them.
Yes.
But it's just, let's just delegitimize another country's elections because ours are super above board and super good, right? Like, okay, you know.
And just to remind people that who did they give the recent Nobel Peace Prize to? Well, in 2021, it was a Russian opposition figure who they had tried to elevate to oppose Putin. In 2022, it was a Belarusian figure that they were looking to implement in a color revolution to lead the country. In 2023, there was a failed color revolution in Iran, and they elevated this Narjeh Mohammadi. Okay. And now you've got Maria Corina, the Venezuelan opposition, who also was on Juan Guaido's team, by the way, in 2019. It's hilarious and disgusting that they would weaponize identity politics like this, but they knew that the shitlibs would back this because it was, and they wouldn't look too deep into who she was, but her identity fit the profile that would make them happy. Okay.
Yep.
Finally.
And before that, we had fucking. No, I missed it.
Obama.
Right.
You know.
And finally, I wanted to point out, fuck Trump and ICE and all that's going on with deportations and Chicago. I didn't get into it, but there's a lot of stuff happening, and there are certainly other channels to follow to do that. I had a lot I wanted to cover tonight, so I didn't have a chance to get to that. But this story out of ProPublica kind of broke me a little bit. And I'm not going to read it because it's really long, but I'm going to put the link in the description. I don't want to be here anymore. No more. Right. They tried to self-deport and then got stranded in Trump's America. All right. This is the story of, out of ProPublica, a
man named Brady.
No, a woman that tried to self-deport with her family. They were promised $1,000 to self-deport to help them set their life back up at home. All right. First, they waited for plane tickets that never came. Their whole life got displaced. They gave up their apartment, and then they didn't get tickets. Like, it's this whole story, right? It was mid-May, and Perez, a Venezuelan mother of two, couldn't survive on her own in Chicago anymore. Why? Because she'd been relying on charity for food and shelter ever since her partner had been detained by ICE after a traffic stop earlier this year. Sound familiar? This 25-year-old woman thought it would be safer to return to Venezuela with her children than to stay in the United States. Her request for asylum was still open, and she had a permit to work legally, but so did a lot of other Venezuelans getting picked up on the streets and taken into custody. She was literally afraid to leave her house. But then in the app, DHS offered $1,000 exit bonus to people that could book a free flight to any foreign country under Project Homecoming. Right? They tried to do that through the CBP Home app. Months passed. Her partner got deported. In July, she said she got a call from someone at CBP. This whole story is in nightmare. She ended up getting deported and self-deporting and flying to Venezuela. But the money never arrived. The $1,000 hasn't arrived. And they've been trying to scramble to figure out what the hell to do back in Venezuela. Good luck getting that money from the Trump administration.
Especially in Venezuela.
Right?
You know, they'll claim you're some cartel member once they get it. Right. They'll bomb your boat in a crime in international waters.
So,
you know?
Yeah, fuck the Trump admin for that nonsense as well.
Yeah.
And just real quick, I do want to put up what's this? Oh, that's my one-on-one with Shanda. That's okay. That's going to be next. Real quick, if you're able to, it means please support this live stream. Please support this channel. Please support independent media.
Money, please.
This is the amazing people that already do that and have done that. Cash App, $ Indie News Network, ko-fi.com/Indie News Network. You got paypal.me/Indie News Network, at INNnewsletter.com and IndieMediaToday.com. And then we've got IndieNewsNow.com where we're live as well. I also, again, wanted to shout out the GoFundMes that we do every week. And again, talking about stuff like this is how we got help for Aspen, how we've gotten more money raised for Shanda. And again, I cannot be more grateful. Last night, Beauty and the Boomer ran this one-on-one that I recorded earlier this week on Thursday with Shanda. We talked about independent media. We talked about her history and the entire space and where it's gone and how she got into this to begin with and how it's evolved. And then also her battling small cell lung cancer and what she's been through with insurance and what she's struggling with right now in going through treatments again. So if anyone's able to, please support her GoFundMe. Last night, we ended up, after that was run, raised about $1,000, which is going to help her get through this month. So thank you to everyone who did that, specifically to the one person that gave a ton of money last night. But thank you. I understand they don't want to be shouted out by name, but you know who you are. Thank you. So that's GoFundMe for Shanda. Of course, we also have what's going on with our friend Cowboy Kitty, Anthony Malecki's sister-in-law, Natalia. We talked about ICE deporting people a little while ago. Natalia is currently in detention. She doesn't have a hearing for another few weeks. And they still want to deport her to Ukraine. She did it right. She has permission to work here. She was a truck driver, but she's been held indefinitely, 4 months. Her daughter, they want to deport also now to Ukraine, apparently. At her latest immigration hearing, she broke down and started crying, begging to receive bail for the nonviolent misdemeanor, and the judge got mad and denied her. Yeah, now that was weeks ago. 2 weeks later, still flight risk. Thank you, Anthony. Really appreciate that. And Anthony put in the chat the other night an update that it's going to be at least another couple weeks before her hearing. So if you can contribute to her GoFundMe, they could really use some help and support. Again, I know everybody's hurting and everybody needs money right now. This really hasn't moved very much in a long time, and anything anyone can do, it really makes a big difference, even $5 or $10. And then finally, I want to tell the story, and luckily we're not asking at this point for final expenses at this point, but our friend Rich Slutsky from Counterspin, he got news earlier this summer that his father had a stroke and was in hospice care, was in the hospital. Then he was in hospice care, and he got a call over the weekend that his dad passed away. And he got a call from the funeral home. They won't take payments. I have until Wednesday to fully fund his cremation. Under state laws, they can only hold the remains for 10 days, and we're already on day 3. I gave him $200 as good faith payment just to shut them up. How the fuck am I supposed to come up with $1,645 in a week? Originally, it was $3,000 that they knocked down to $1,845 because he was a veteran. All right. There's his proof of payment. People ended up giving him PayPal to help. He also said that the lawyer ended up helping out. Where is it? He said, "I can breathe now. The lawyer I've been working with was very kind and offered to pay it forward and cover the balance due out of any potential settlement. Thank you to everyone who stepped up and chipped in. It means a lot to know when things look bleak. I can rely on the kindness of strangers." Mutual aid, man, mutual aid. This is why we do this every week, because people need help and nobody's doing shit to help them. We just have to help each other. And as long as I have a platform, I'm going to do what I can to help the people around us that need help, that don't have a voice. So I asked Rich that is there anything I can do or that we can tell people who want to help? And he said, no, pretty much it's all anyone can do, but thanks for thinking of us. But rest in peace to your dad, and we're thinking of you, and we love you, Rich, and sorry for your loss, and fuck this system for being so harsh and cruel right now to so many people. I also want to, again, I've referenced IndieNewsNow.com. That is, again, our React show. You can see we're going to be live later on for that. That was the uncensored votes from last week. We're going to be live on Rumble. We'll be live on YouTube at INN8 The Ocho is our channel over there. We're also going to be live on all the other INN channels for boat smashing and other boats. So, wow. But yeah, Indie News Now. We'll be live there. If you go to Watch Live, you'll be able to watch it there. There's also a merch store where you can pick up a t-shirt, a beanie. It's starting to get cold out. So if you're in one of those areas, pick up a beanie. If you so are inclined, pick up a tank top, pick up a sweatshirt, a hoodie, or a sticker. We got them all there. And you get there by going to IndieNewsNow.com and click on the merch link. So I'm waiting. Buy my merch right quick. Look at my shirt, little bitch. I'm waiting for it. I don't hear it, but
yeah. Are you? I should make you wait forever.
I was excited to hear that.
Forever.
Go to my website. Buy my merch right quick.
There you go.
Thank you. So, all right.
You're welcome.
Thank you to everyone for hanging with me through all of that and through ranting and raving. Yes, I agree that it's a beautiful. It's a hell of a start. That the funeral homes are a scam. Descent in Bloom. All right, poor guy. Glad his lawyer helped. Me too. I mean, I was definitely. It was on my mind. Metal Mama Sue. Yes, we do. We're on our own 100%. All we have is each other. Thank you, Natalie. Bless your beautiful heart too. You know, you're one of the people that inspires me. Yes, and Golden Monarch appreciates Rich's works per Substack. Absolutely. Love you all. Man. This was
Let's all go to the lobby.
It's time to get ourselves a treat, right? Have ourselves a treat. One more time before we get out of here. Support independent media by doing it these ways. Cash App, $, Indie News Network. Go-v.com/Indie News Network. Got paypal.me/Indie News Network. That site I just showed you, IndieNewsNow.com. You can go to INNNewsletter.com. We're about to go live there. So if you subscribe to INN Newsletter, you'll get an alert on the mobile app for the live stream. And we've been live at IndieMediaToday.com for the last couple hours. And we will publish this live stream tomorrow morning as a podcast replay. We do that every Monday morning. We publish it both to Spotify as well as now to Substack. So if you did not catch the whole thing at first, you can go back and watch it at your convenience, completely ad-free at IndieMediaToday.com. All right, everyone. Let's go watch some eye bleach, because this was this was a rough one, but I love you all. Really. I thank you for sticking with us. Thanks, Monarch. No, we're not. Whoever's going to lose the fucking stream, we're going to do that in a second, but go catch us over on the boats. Support independent media, because we need it more than ever. I love you all. We'll see you soon, fam.
Bye. Have a great time.
Hasta la vista, baby. I'll be back.
No! We just fucking lost the stream!
I think I liked it better being blind, when I couldn't read between the lines, and when I couldn't see the cracks in the structure that lay bare before me the whole time. I think I liked it better back when I suspended disbelief and swallowed pride. I thought I knew the difference in the red from the blue, but they both bleed us so dry. They both bleed us so dry.
My favorite songs don't hit the same way. I get to the end of a 4-minute track and I'm only looking back thinking, what did they actually say?
I guess this isn't such an awful place. Is that what you want me to say? You prove it's possible to sleep for days, and I still think you're right here awake. The cost of living isn't much to make, but God, it's so hard to say. And when they told you everything Were you